Is there a God? Consider the human body. Psalm 139 verse 14 declares, "We are fearfully and wonderfully made." Let's examine one small part of the body, the human eye. Because of its extreme complexity, scientists still don't fully understand how it works. Guess who said, quote, "To suppose that the eye, with all its inimitable contrivances for adjusting the focus to different distances, for admitting different amounts of light, and for the correction of spherical and chromatic aberration, could have been formed by natural selection, seems, I freely confess, absurd in the highest possible degree. The belief that an organ as perfect as the eye could have been formed by natural selection is more than enough to stagger anyone," end quote. Who declared this remarkable truth? None other than the famous evolutionist Charles Darwin. Even he recognized that an organ as intricate and magnificent as the eye required a creator. This information source comes from the author Rick Jones of his book titled "When Life is Over," pages 14 and 15, published by Chick Publications, year 2000, website chick.com, CHICK.com. Charles Darwin wrote in his book, The Origin of Species, on page 323, quote, "Intermediate links? Geology assuredly does not reveal any such finely graduated organic chain, and this, perhaps, is the most obvious and serious objection which can be urged against the theory of evolution," end quote. In the March 1996, the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology, we read, quote, "The avian features of the skull demonstrate that Archaeopteryx is a bird rather than a feathered non-avian archosaur," end quote. Dr. Alan Fiducia, world-class evolutionary bird expert, said, quote, "Paleontologists have tried to turn Archaeopteryx into an earthbound feathered dinosaur, but it's not. It is a bird, a perching bird, and no amount of paleobabble is going to change that," end quote. Charles Darwin said, quote, "If it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed which could not possibly have been formed by numerous, successive, slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down," end quote. During the late 1960s and throughout the 70s and early 80s, Dean Kenyon was one of the leading chemical evolutionary theorists in the world. In 1969, Kenyon co-authored an important book on the origin of life. In his book, titled Biochemical Predestination, Kenyon and his co-author Gary Steinman proposed an intriguing theory. Many scientists embraced Kenyon's ideas, and over the next 20 years, Biochemical Predestination became a best-selling text on the theory of chemical evolution. Yet, 5 years after the book's publication, Kenyon quietly began to doubt the plausibility of his own theory. Kenyon said, quote, "It was during that whole period of time that my doubts about certain aspects of the evolutionary account became apparent when coming into contact with a powerful counter-argument given to me by one of my students, and I could not refute that counter-argument. We have not the slightest chance of a chemical evolutionary origin for even the simplest of cells." This information source comes from the DVD by illustramedia.com titled Unlocking the Mystery of Life.